most people live te entire lives in sidevals te never see. Te movetrog routines fel de vect of limitation. And speak about obstacles as if te were handed down frater. But rarely do te stop to ask. Gwiazdka fobul tese vals, gwiazd herdit tese limits come from. Were te bon vis tem, or dit so messing slovle, over tien construts tem bridge bebritsk. De trus is unsoffortable, yet freeing. De prison jo fel stutzkin, de invisible zagetat holds potential batsk, was build jo oven togs. De vals während fortset on jo wäre hossen, often without realizing it, very time jo seid, kant jo platzet abritsk. Very time jo avoided discomfort, jo reinforcet a boundary. Very excuse, very moment jo doplet yourself, very time jo fearet jujna noser stone in de val. Nof, tis is not to blame jo. Tis is to avaken jo. Bezause if jo build it, gwiazdka jo kan unbuildet gwiazdka. If jo togts created it, jo avarenes kan dissolve. Tat is the beautiful paradox. De samme min tak confinet jo is de samme min tat kan set jo free. Often tesse vals begin in hilt halt. Maibe som man seit jo während goat en aug. Maibe liefe takt jo to fair failure. Maibe jo wäre surundet bevoices convincet jo to place mal. Tosse voices bezame jo oven, and eventuales. Te bezame jo reality. And so jo began to live not in the world but in your interpretation of it. Jo began to respond not to frat is but to the stories jo created, the danger lies in repetitions. Togts repeated bezome beliefs. Beliefs repeated bezome jo identity. And identity if un examinet bezomes a prison selvis jo name etret on the incide. Jo stop saying opportunities. Not bezause te aren't terebut bezause de bar fair and dob distort your vision. But imagine tis. Frat very talked jo ever accepted as truth was platz on trial. Fra ifo questionet tem. Frat if jo asket. Gwiazdka is tis true. Or is tis so messing I was taug to believe gwiazdka frat if instead of saying im not tat tipe of per se. To maybe whenever gwiazdka triet gwiazd being tat persone. The moment you shift from victim to creator, you begin removing britsk from the vals. Tis regvides avarenes, stillness. A moment of silence with yourself. Bezause vhen you pause. Vhen you truly observe the voice in your head, you realize something powerful. Gwiazdka you are not tat voice. Gwiazdka you are only standing. And if you are the only standing, you are also the one who can hang if heart is being sight. If left und trained zu build of presence. But if trained with attention, discipline and presence, it becomes an architect of freedom. You don't need to destroy the entire structure in one day. You used to not dice the next talk that size, but you are not ready and respond with, but it will begin anyway. You need to zag the moment friend comfort seduces you and horse groves instit, on a britsk, on a hoitze, on a step at jaings, understand tis de eple. No one else can do tis for you. Bezause no one else lives in the exage als you were built. People can show you tools. They can guide you to the door, but only you can walk through. Only you can face de silence and decide tat itzig letos tiaim od togs schape a new future. And yes, it's hard. Freedom doest come without discomfort. But discomfort is a sign jure moving beyond the familiar. And that's where a transformation begins. You may not knof frat les beyond the vals yet. That's okay. Frat matters is that you knof gwiazdka val tes are not your gwiazdka. Te are not permanent. They are not truths. They are temporary constructs of the mind. And onze jo citat, onze jo trule citat, jo we already begun de journey out. Bezause freedom doest start when you open the door. It starts the moment you realize. Gwiazdka the log was never real. Gwiazdka teres a moment in every person's life when take stand at the edge of something they can't gwite explain. A gwit frustration. A failing tat life is somech of smaller tan, it should be. And deb inside, te knofte we udgunter zurenstatte. But still te weit for a sign. Te weit for sommerone to komme along vis ansvers. Te weit for a door to swing opens. Or a guide to arrive vis decay. And file te weit nothing hanges. Te fel stutsk. Convinced tat freedom lies som fhere outside of them. But heres de trost must never come to realize. Decay is already in your hands, born with it. Jove always hat. Jo just forgot fhere jo put it. Bezause som fhere along, de vai jo started believing tat someone else had the power to unlock your life for you. Jo talked it come from a method, at sitt a perfect stance, but decay is not in a moment. It's in a decision. Teres somessingsrets about taking responsibility. Not just surface level of ownership fhere you say, a yes I made a mistake. But the kind of responsibility that says, gwiazdka I am de a fitets of me reality gwiazdka. That kind of truth was terrifying and liberating. Bezause the moment accept that the prison was built by your own choices. You also inherit the power to horse differently. Most people don't want that kind of power. Not really. Bezause it removes all excuses. If you hold decay, then no one is coming to rescue you. And that means the burden of your life's direction sits fully on your shoulders. But log closer burden can also bear blessings. Bezause when no one else is responsible for your life. It means no one else can control it. That's freedom. Think of all the ways we give over power. We say, be kante hange bezause of me past. Or OMTs vai bezause offat hapenet to me. And yes tosse things matter. Te shape us. But te don't define us. Frat defines us is frat gwiazdka do we gwiazdka vistose experiences. Do letem hein us to the floors. Oder we forgetem into tolls to klimfiger. You see, walking out of your mental prison dost dance require you to be extraordinary. It doest require perfect steaming or endless motivation. It requires on a thing. Gwiazdka a hojce gwiazdka. De hoist to stop waiting to move. This to stop blaming. De hojce to step forward even when your legs shake, even when you mindreschists, even when you fail unprepared. That moment of hojce is the tune of decay. We live in a world obsessed with shortcuts. Purple want hacks, fast answers, escape buttons, but grows dost vokliket. Decay is outside the yo. Hiding in a book or a video or someone else's approval. Decay is forget the moment you say. Be am reade to hange. Not bezause itsease. Not bezause im confident. But bezause I refuse to live like tis ane longer. Jo don't net certainte. Jo net so rage. The zorage to trust that if you take on a honest step in a new direction, the path will reveal itself. And it does. Not all at once, but piece by piece, brace by brace. The more responsibility you claim, the more power you awakens. Not control over the world, but control over yourself, your choices, your reactions. That is the real case. Not an object, but a mindset. A shift so simple that most people overlook it. Gwiazdka kan se differently. Gwiazdka ant from tato na decision, everything begins to hang. Jo may still hear the voices of doubts. Jo may still feel the pull of habits. But nov, jo knov te don't oven jo. Jo kan vak tem rise. And still move forward. Because jo hold the care potsket. Not in your hand, but in your hand, but in your will. In your discipline. In your daily commitment to stop boiling vals and start working toward delict. You don't have to see def holly wild. You just have to trust that freedom is always on a honest decision away. There's something you may not have noticed, something subtle, quiet, but powerful. The guards keeping you locked inside your mental prison aren't enemies from the outside. They aren't people. They aren't situations. They're habits. Habits that you yourself created. Habits that feel like comfort, but operate like chains. We don't often realize this because habits disguise themselves. They come dressed as relief, as ease, as a familiar rhythm. Waking up late, avoiding that difficult conversation, reaching for distraction instead of presence, letting a day slip by without intention. Each of these may seem harmless, but every time you choose what is easy over what is necessary, you give those guards more authority. You give your routine more control over your destiny. It's not that you're lazy. It's that your habits have been trained for safety, not freedom. And freedom, though beautiful, demands change. Change is uncomfortable. It requires awareness. It requires honesty. It requires the discipline to challenge yourself when no one is watching. If you watch a person who feels stuck in life, you'll often notice a pattern. Their day looks the same. Their decisions repeat. Their excuses echo. And inside, they feel frustration. They say they want more, but they act as if they are powerless. Why? Because their habits have become stronger than their intentions. A habit, once formed, becomes automatic. And anything automatic is hard to interrupt. But just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. You trained these guards, which means you can retrain them. You taught your body to seek comfort. Now you can teach it to endure discomfort for growth. You taught your mind to avoid challenges. Now you can teach it to face resistance with clarity and purpose. But first you must see your habits, not judge them, just notice. Notice when you reach for your phone instead of sitting with your thoughts. Notice when you delay your goals by telling yourself tomorrow. Notice when you escape into entertainment instead of stepping into effort. These tiny moments are where the guards leave. These tiny moments are where freedom is won or lost. The secret is not in doing something huge overnight. The secret is in consistency. Choosing a higher path repeatedly, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. Because that is the training ground. That is where your guards begin to weaken. You no longer serve them. They begin to serve you. Understand this deeply. Discipline is not punishment. It is not restriction. It is remembrance. It is the daily act of remembering who you truly are beneath the noise, beneath the patterns, beneath the distractions. Discipline is the practice of returning to your path when the world tries to pull you off it. People often say they want freedom, but when they're offered discipline, they resist it. They say it's too strict, too demanding. What they don't realize is that the undisciplined life is the real prison. A prison where your impulses control you, where your moods dictate your actions, where you're constantly reacting instead of creating. Freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It comes from having the strength to do what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That is when your character is forged. That is when your mind sharpens. That is when the guards begin to stand down, not because they've vanished, but because they've been repurposed. The same energy that once protected your comfort now begins to protect your growth. The habit of laziness becomes the habit of discipline. The habit of avoidance becomes the habit of action. And slowly, your prison becomes a path. The walls open into doors. The cell becomes a training ground. So don't be afraid of your habits. Study them. Face them. Shape them. Because once you understand that the guards were never your enemy, but your own creation, you gain the power to turn them into allies. And when that happens, the prison no longer controls you. You do. Pain has a way of getting your attention. It doesn't whisper. It doesn't knock politely. It arrives like a storm, sharp and uninvited. And your first instinct is always the same. Make it stop. Escape it. Numb it. Distract yourself until it fades. But what if, instead of trying to run from pain, you sat with it? What if you treated it not as a curse, but as a message? Because pain is not the enemy. It's the alarm bell of your soul. It rings when something deep inside you is being ignored, neglected, or denied. It's a signal, a sign that the life you're living is out of alignment with the life you were meant to live. And like any alarm, it only gets louder when you pretend not to hear it. Sometimes that pain comes as anxiety, a tightening in the chest, a mind that won't slow down. Sometimes it shows up as sadness, a quiet sense of loss you can't explain. And sometimes it's just a deep restlessness, a discomfort you feel every time you're alone with your thoughts. These aren't flaws, they're messages, indicators, proof that something inside you refuses to settle for a cage. You don't suffer because you're weak. You suffer because a part of you knows you're meant for more. That inner voice, the one that keeps calling, isn't trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to remind you that this isn't peace, that the walls you've built may feel familiar, but they're not home. We are trained to fear pain, to avoid it. But pain has depth. It's the body and mind's way of demanding your attention when nothing else has worked. If you listen closely, it says things like, you're not being honest with yourself. Or, you've stayed here too long. It says, there's a version of you waiting, but you're too distracted to meet them. And you notice that pain doesn't arise when you're truly aligned. It doesn't scream when you're growing, moving, facing what needs to be faced. It gets loud when you're stagnant, when you're shrinking yourself, when you're pretending that comfort is enough. So instead of avoiding it, learn from it. Sit with it like you would a wise teacher. Ask it, what are you trying to show me? What part of myself have I silenced? What truth have I avoided because I was too afraid of what it might demand? And then listen, not with panic, but with patience. The answers don't always come in words. Sometimes they come in silence, a knowing, a quiet understanding that you've outgrown who you've been pretending to be. When you start paying attention to the signals, you begin to see the bigger picture. That pain isn't trying to break you. It's trying to awaken you. It's not there to punish. It's there to pull you out of your slumber, out of your numbness, and into a more conscious, honest life. It is in those moments of discomfort that growth begins. Not when things are easy, not when you're coasting, but when something aches within you, begging for change. That ache is sacred. It's your inner world realigning, adjusting, stretching into something more real. But here's what's important to understand. You don't need to be completely healed to begin. You don't need to have all the answers before you move. You just need to stop ignoring what hurts. You need to honor it. Use it as fuel. Let it guide your next step, because what you feel most deeply is pointing you toward what matters most. Don't silence the alarm. Don't drown it out with noise or numb it with habits. Let it ring. Let it wake you. Because once you stop running from pain and begin walking through it with awareness, it transforms. What was once suffering becomes clarity. What was once chaos becomes direction. And in that transformation, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing the prison because you realize it was never stronger than your will to be free. And that's when true movement begins. Not away from the pain, but toward your power. There comes a time when you realize that no one is coming. No one is going to lift you up, break open your cage, carry you through the storm, or hold your hand through every hard moment. And for many, that realization feels cold, lonely. But it is one of the most liberating truths you can ever accept, because in that moment, something shifts. You stop waiting and you start moving. It's easy to believe that someone else should help you change, That someone should understand how lost you feel, how heavy it's been, how stuck you've become. And maybe they do. But understanding won't work for you. Love won't break the cycle for you. Even those who care deeply cannot climb into your mind and rewire it for you. The real path, the only true way out, begins the moment you decide to walk alone. There is strength in solitude. Not isolation, but solitude, the kind that makes you meet yourself honestly. When the noise fades, when the distractions disappear, you're left with one thing: you. Your fears, your hopes, your habits, your truth. And in that space, a decision is born. Not from pressure, not from guilt, but from clarity. That I must do this myself. That doesn't mean you'll never have help. It doesn't mean you must suffer in silence or reject guidance. But it means that the first step must come from within you. Because if you wait for the world to push you, you may never move. If you keep hoping someone else will hand you the key, you'll stay trapped, even if the door is already unlocked. The walk out of the prison is deeply personal. No map can guide you. No one else has lived your exact experiences. No one else knows the depth of your pain or the precise shape of the cage you've built. And that's why no one else can truly lead you out. You must learn to read your own signals. You must learn to listen to the quiet wisdom that rises when you're brave enough to sit in stillness. Yes, it will be difficult. You'll stumble. You'll doubt yourself. There will be moments when the walls feel safer than the unknown outside. But comfort is not the same as peace, and safety is not the same as freedom. The path will challenge you, but that's how you grow. Not by being rescued, but by rescuing yourself. Not by being led, but by becoming your own guide. There's a kind of dignity that forms when you walk alone. Not pride, not arrogance, but a quiet inner strength that says, I know who I am because I earned this. You begin to trust your own voice because it's the voice that brought you out of the dark. You begin to respect your own journey because it was built not on convenience, but on choice. Repeated, deliberate choice, even when it was hard, even when no one noticed, even when it felt like no progress was being made. This is how transformation happens, not in grand displays, but in quiet moments of courage. When you get up one more time, when you keep going even when your hands are shaking, when you choose to believe in a version of yourself you haven't met yet. Some will not understand this path. Some will say you've changed, and you have, because you refuse to stay in a place that no longer fit the person you're becoming. You stopped pretending that the old way was enough. You stopped clinging to the lie that someone else would fix your life for you. And now you walk. Slowly, honestly, powerfully. Not because you know exactly where the path leads, but because you finally trust yourself to keep walking. So when it feels like you are alone, remember, this journey was always meant to be yours. Not because you are weak, but because you are capable. Capable of hearing your own truth. Capable of making hard decisions. Capable of rising again and again and again. And one day, as you walk forward without asking for permission, you look back, not at the prison, but at the strength it took to leave it behind. And in that moment, you'll know no one needed to carry you, because your courage carried you further than anyone ever could. There is a world that exists beyond the walls you've built. A life waiting quietly on the other side of your fear, your habits, your doubts. It's not a fantasy. It's not some distant, unreachable dream. It is real and it is yours, but you will never see it until you choose to step beyond the familiar. You've lived so long within your mental cage that you've come to believe it's all there is. The same thoughts circling, the same feelings repeating, the same routines, conversations, and outcomes. But deep within you, there's always been a whisper, a gentle tug, a subtle knowing that this can't be all, that there's more. Not just more outside of you, but more within you. More strength, more clarity, more life. When you finally begin walking out of that prison, the first thing you notice isn't joy. It's uncertainty. The absence of walls is disorienting. You start to feel the vulnerability of freedom. No more guards, no more excuses, no more patterns to hide behind. And for a while, the open space feels uncomfortable. you almost missed the prison, because at least there, everything was predictable. But predictable is not the same as peaceful. Repetition is not the same as fulfillment. The world outside the cage isn't always easy, but it is alive, and it meets you with possibility. Every step becomes a new choice. Every breath becomes a chance to respond instead of react. You start to notice the small details that you had forgotten to see. The way the morning light feels when you rise with purpose. The way your body moves when it's aligned with discipline. The calm that follows when you stop running from yourself and begin living with intention. In the beginning, there is fear. Not the kind that paralyzes, but the kind that invites courage. You feel the weight of responsibility. But alongside it, you feel a strange lightness, a freedom that comes not from escape, but from presence. You're no longer acting out old roles, trapped in loops. You're no longer shrinking to fit inside the expectations of others. You are meeting yourself again for the first time. And that's when everything begins to shift. You start to dream again. Not the shallow, fleeting dreams of comfort, but deep, grounded visions that come from your soul. You remember what it felt like to want more, not out of greed, but out of alignment with your potential. You begin to live, not just survive, not just endure. You begin to choose. And the most powerful part, you realize that the person you are becoming was always there, hidden beneath the noise, silenced by the old voices, buried beneath years of hesitation, but never gone, never broken, just waiting. This world beyond the prison, it doesn't offer perfection. It offers possibility. It asks for your effort, your honesty, your willingness to fail and rise again. It gives you space to become, not overnight, but through discipline, awareness, and deep inner work. The old life kept you numb. This life awakens you. The old life was built to keep you small. This one asks you to grow. And growth will not always feel good, but it will always be worth it. You'll lose people along the way. You'll shed old parts of yourself. You'll grieve the version of you that stayed small because it was easier. But in return, you gain something priceless, yourself. Of hope. Clear, strong, free. And that freedom is not found in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of purpose. It's not about escaping difficulty. It's about becoming someone who is no longer afraid of it, someone who moves with integrity, someone who speaks truthfully, lives intentionally, and stands firmly, even when the world tries to pull them back into the cage. So keep walking. Keep shedding the false. Keep reaching for the life that once felt impossible, because the moment you taste true freedom, not comfort, not ease, but a freedom, you'll know. You'll know that nothing in the prison was ever worth staying for.